Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Don't you like when the US government issues a warning for the US citizens, telling them to avoid certain countries? I mean, avoiding to visit or to go on vacation or something like this. And you might think, I didn't do anything. Why? And then the government provides you the answer because they don't like Americans, because your freedom and you're special and all that. And if you're a baboon, you say, yeah, man, I am. Yeah, I think I am. But if you start knowing just a little bit of what's going on around you or around the world, you realize, wait a minute, did the government in our name do something to that country? Those people? Okay, all right now. And that's the way it goes. And what's going on? These guys, in our name, they do certain things around the world. Why? Because they are the good people. And then those people don't like those people that obviously did something to them. And then they say, well, these guys are bad people. We're going to try to hurt you. How are they going to try to hurt them? Well, by hurting us. A clear example was the September 11, 2001. That was, again, they hated our freedom and they had the problem with the American people somehow for unknown reasons, or the reasons were they hate our freedom and they're crazy. So now we have people here who talk shit in our name and they are protected by our click military that we fund, actually. That's why it's supposed to be our, but it's at their orders. It's not in our orders. Go and see how much the military will do something for you. No, they do it for them. So we have all kind of senators and imbeciles making all kind of statements and accusations, most of the time without providing evidence. And we have here Lindsey Graham, that imbecilic senator from South Carolina. And he, with his 1,200,000 votes that he received, that's how much he got. Hey, he got more than I got, so yeah. But he talks because he's got the US government behind him and he's got the US military to defend him. So he can talk whatever he wants and tell, I want you, you're an blah, blah, blah. Why? Because he knows there will be no repercussions. So I will show you how Mr. Lindsey Graham was now added by the Russians on a list of terrorists. So he's designated by the Russians, I know, the Russians are bad, as a terrorist. Now, and he's placed on a wanted list. So that means if the Russians will be the Ukrainians, will send a squad and abduct or maybe hire Mossad because they're experts in doing this. If you don't believe me, look into history. Get the example of Eichmann, if you want, from wherever he was picked up from, Argentina or Brazil, somewhere over there. And put in front of the court, and they decided that he needs to go. So if the Russians will be the Ukrainians, probably they would hire Mossad, and Mossad would do the job for them. After all, Zelensky is over there. So he is placed on this list. And I don't think he gives a shit. Why? Because he's protected by our military. I have another case, but let me show you first the article I'm going to discuss today. I have another case to show you another very weak individual who hides behind someone else bigger and talks smack and pretends I'm a tough guy, like Lindsey. Lindsey is doing that because he is protected by his private army, which is actually the US Army. Here it is. Russia Today, 20th of February 2024. Russia adds US Senator Lindsey Graham to lists of terrorists. The hawkish South Carolina Republican called for Russia to be designated as a sponsor of terrorism last week. I remind you that this imbecile said on 2 occasions that Vladimir Putin should be taken out, get eliminated. Now, Vladimir Putin, who is the Russian president, voted in office by Russians, but he said that that would be desirable. He decided, this guy. So he's tough because he thinks he cannot be reached. Or he knows he cannot be reached. Why? Because it's an understanding. This is just, I think, just a game of words. But we have this article, or at least video that I covered on the 18th of February 2024. And it was about the Estonian Prime Minister, Kaja Kallas, from Maria Kallas. So she says that she's not afraid She's not afraid of the Russians. She's not afraid of Putin. If they placed her on a wanted list as well. I'm not afraid. Now, I have to remind you that Estonia has a population of 1,200,000 people. So 1.2, right, million people. About 1.3, let's give them that, because I think it's 1.27. So 1.3 million people. That's a city. And she's not afraid of Russia. 146 million people, plus nuclear weapons, plus the military, and so on. Why do you think she's not afraid? Or she claims she's not afraid? Because if the Russians do something, they will ask for Americans, and she will be in the first plane going to somewhere else in the West. Why? Because the Russians will occupy Estonia in 23 minutes. So, yeah, she's tough like Lindsey. Lindsey is tough. Lindsey is a senator of a state, South Carolina, as I said, voted 1.2 million people, like Estonia. The whole Estonia voted for Lindsey. And Kaja is tough too, the Prime Minister of Estonia. Talking smack, knowing that you got the big daddy right there in case something happens. There's no courage. She's not a tough woman. He's not a tough man. He's just a weasel who hides behind things. If Estonia would be no part of NATO or anything like that, I guarantee you, Estonia would come to its senses and become normal. That is diplomatic, and understand that, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? I'm befriending that guy, that guy over there, thousands of miles away, that is going to actually take over my country, which already did, and Europe in general, against my neighbor, bad or good as it is. But it's idiotic. Hey, what do you want? These are the people in charge of us. So let's read further this article from Russia Today. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, I will just call him Lindsey, who called on the US government to designate Russia a state sponsor of terrorism last week, has been added to Moscow's list of extremists and terrorists. Graham is entry number 3967 according to the Federal Financial Monitoring Service, the Russian agency responsible for the list. The database does not cite specific reasons why entities or individuals are included. So it says here that Lindsey's remarks came on Sunday in response to the news about the death of Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny. Speaking to the CBS program Face the Nation, the lawmaker proposed the designation as a way of making Russians pay a price for quote-unquote killing Navalny. I have to remind you that Navalny is a Russian citizen, he's not a US citizen, so back off. Because just imagine the Russians will issue the same kind of things because of Trump, saying the US government is out to get Trump. Not the US government. US government is used by the guys behind it to get Trump. What do you think these guys will say? Interference in internal affairs. And not only. We told you, yes, they are involved. Yet vote for the corpse instead of for a breathing human being. Let's move on. The Russian prison service, I'm not going to go to the autopsy. And it says Graham is a vocal proponent of a hawkish approach to foreign policy. Yeah, because he's not hurt. He's not hurt in any way. He's saying things politically. If there will be negative consequences, like voted out of office, he will change the tune, or not receiving any campaign donation or anything like that. He's going to say the opposite. Whatever works for the politician. This is the mass democracy that we love. Last year, the Republican hailed U.S. military aid provided to Ukraine as, and I'm quoting, the best money we've ever spent while visiting Kiev. Well, we know that one as well, right? So let's move on here. The Russian Investigative Committee has opened a criminal case against Graham over the May 2023 episode. The Interior Ministry consequently put the American on the wanted list. So it says here, I'm not helping Ukraine until we help ourselves. The senator, yeah, blah, 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 blah. He's a politician. This is what I don't like about politics, the way we have now. One of many things, is that these guys are not doing the right thing for the people. They do it for their own votes and how the wind blows. So it's just weasel. I go to this group, I promise them this. I go to the other group, I promise them that, but that will be against what I promised these guys over here. But I hope that the media will cover for me, and this group that I promised them yesterday something will not hear about what I promised the other group today, which opposes that one. That's the way it goes, my friends. And this is not the will of the people. This is the will of the weasels who try to stay in power as much as possible. So, hey, nothing will happen to Graham. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think nobody's going to come and do anything to Graham? Graham is just a blah, 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 blah. With him or without him, those guys really in charge of the United States of America will continue their thing. He's just a guy who makes noise and wants to have a better life, which is stay in power as a senator. That's all he wants. All he wants. He doesn't give. If you tomorrow tell him that you're going to give him money for the rest of his life, let's say about $50 billion every election, he's going to do whatever you want him to do. He's going to drop all the other PACs, like IPAC and others. Just drop them like that because you're going to outspend them. If you outspend them, he's going to do it. Why? You got the money. You got the money. All he needs is going to work for you 100%. So this is the level of US democracy. You don't have some millions of dollars, thank you very much, and you don't promise the right things, the right interest, the right thing, you're out. Not the people, the interest. All right, my friends, here it is. He represents us. He's a US senator from South Carolina. Just a weasel. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.